Elation, a hot topic of 2026 and 4.x, as the new in quotation marks path that was supposed to take the meta by storm. But with frequent new additions to the roster seemingly overshadowing the supposed flagship archetype of Plan Arcadia, many have begun to wonder, what does the future of Elation look like? I am here today to fully analyze the current place of Elation in the meta, where some things may have gone wrong, along with what the future units should or will need to bring to the table to save this archetype. But before I can get into any of my analysis or thoughts, I need to tell you a little bit about today's sponsor, Enjoy GM. Are you tired of paying full price for your top-ups? Well, tire no longer, as Enjoy GM is here to save the day. All you need is your UID to top up. New users will get an 8% off coupon right off the bat when they start on the site, but popular games such as Neverness to Everness have up to 23% off on their discounts. And it's not just NTE, there are several other gacha games that are supported as well. Prices may vary per region, but you are going to be getting the best price possible. Enjoy GM also supports in-game routing, so if you still have your top-up bonuses, you will get them when you purchase on site. With a high Trustpilot rating and being PCI DSS certified, it's a clear winner when deciding to spend money on your top-ups. If you would like to save money using Enjoy GM, be sure to use my link in the pinned comment or description to save money today. When compared to the flagship team of 3.x, the Elation archetype has taken some unexpected detours, to put it nicely. The flagship Remembrance team began with the release of Castris in 3.2 as the anniversary main push DPS, who was formidable at the time and could function properly even without her dedicated teammates that would come in later patches. RMC was a fantastic free-to-play support option and still is today. Tribbie had fantastic synergy and was a staple of the early Castris teams and is still great today. And the best sustainer at the time was a 4-star of all things. All three of these slots would come to be replaced with stronger alternatives, but the fact that we had a fully functional, free-to-play friendly team for Castris at launch was incredible. Hyacine would come along next, becoming the stable teammate for a new Bud generation, and also just being way too broken. I don't know what they were thinking when they made this character. Evernight would come a couple patches after that as the sub-DPS of the team, in quotation marks, whilst also providing buffs. And finally, the team was fully rounded out with the release of Cyrene and the AV abusing squad of pink-haired women plus Castris was born. Looking back, this release order makes sense. Each edition provided a significant upgrade to the team, but the team was still fully functional upon release and was merely improved upon with each new character that came. When we then come to look at the path Elation has taken thus far, it gets a bit messier. We start in 4.0's first half not with the DPS, but with the support. Guang's solo release still makes me scratch my head to this day, as a premium support was released for the Elation archetype before any other Elation units even MC. Pulling her in the first half meant waiting for at least 3 weeks to even play her unless you fancied pairing her with your archer. 3 weeks after Guang, the support's release, came the sub DPS. Sparxie and Guang made an extremely powerful duo, and still do, pairing well with the newly buffed Sparkle and breezing through content. However, there was no confirmation on what either of these characters would be providing for the upcoming Elation DPS characters, yes there were 2, coming in 4.2, as there was an entire patch between their release and the anniversary. Many players opted to skip either Guang, Sparxie, or even both, as they were afraid they'd be pulling for characters that may not benefit the upcoming Silverwolf SP and/or Evanescia. Some time passed, Ashveil came and went, and we were in our anniversary patch with the release of the flagship Elation DPS, Silverwolf level 999, followed by another Elation DPS 3 weeks later in Evanescia. Stay with me. In this same patch, we also finally received the first free Elation unit in EMC, who, compared to his Remembrance counterpart, was severely lacking in appeal. The release of Evanescia and Silverwolf basically said, hey, remember that unit we released 10 weeks ago? The one that had no guarantee to be a best in slot option in our teams because you didn't know what we did yet? Yeah, okay. Well, if you didn't pull her, go yourself. Unlike the cohesive release order and free-to-play friendly beginning for Mono Remembrance, Elation took an entirely different path, punishing the player for not making early investments in side characters for the DPS of their choosing. While both Evanescia and Cerydra can be played without Yao Guang, the difference between having her and not having her is night and day. So we're already off to the races with Elation having a rather perplexing release order, but what about their performance? I'd like to use the Mono Remembrance squad, or Pink team, as a reference here, as casters and Cerydra are both anniversary DPS characters following the new path that seem to be getting flagship teams with dedicated partners. The Pink team is composed of 4 characters that all scale off of HP, have memo sprites, and benefits from the same stats, being crit, res pen, defense shred, damage percent, and speed, so long as it isn't on casters' relics. With Elation, on the other hand, we have an attack scaler, but only until she hits a certain amount and gets bored of it, a speed scaler, a unit that is allergic to any stat that doesn't start with the word crit, and a support so greedy that I found a photo of her in my dictionary. All 4 units benefit not from damage percent, but from Elation damage, along with your typical res pen and defense shred. And with Aha's speed coming directly from your Elation unit, you would assume that all 4 units want as much speed as possible. Cerydra and Yao Guang absolutely do, while Sparxie can do well with some, but only after she's met her steep attack requirements, and Evanescia on the other hand doesn't want too much speed as taking actions too frequently on her, which will result in the loss of certified banger stacks. Immediately off the bat, we have some inconsistencies with our lineup here. It's clear that Evanescia will likely not be part of the flagship team, so I will be omitting her from the rest of the video now. Say goodbye to Evanescia, everyone. Bye bye! Okay, so now we're left with Cerydra level 999, who is our main push, and the 2 teammates that have been debated over since the beginning of 4.x. The Sparxie versus Yao Guang argument is so old at this point that it'll be eligible to register for an AARP soon. I am so sick of hearing people argue over these 2 units, it's ridiculous. Let's take a look at Cerydra's current premium in quotation marks team and discuss what problems it currently has and what future units will need to bring to the table in order to fix its issues. Cerydra herself is a speed scaling crit Elation DPS that benefits from high punchline generation, certified banger stacks, teammates that can make use of her mystery boxes by spending skill points frequently, and of course, speed. Yao Guang serves as the premium pseudo-harmony Elation unit with extra emphasis on harm, bringing significant buffs, damage, and a powerful ultimate that spawns a fixed punchline Aha instant upon cast. And last, but certainly not least, for the Elation teammates, we have everyone's favorite streamer, Sparxie, who is a skill point vacuum providing generous amounts of punchline in return. She gives moderate buffs to Elation companions and also deals moderate to severe damage depending on whether she's using any of her other abilities or whatever the hell this is. The first problem we run into comes from our non-Elation slot, which is typically a sustainer. When it comes to sustains, the options are not fantastic for Eidolon-less levels of investment. Huohuo provides attack percent for Sparxie's Elation conversion, along with energy for both Yao Guang and Sparxie, but provides no benefits to Cerydra unless you have her E1. Danhong Perminator Terrain provides an okay amount of damage and a powerful shield, but his attack buff does not benefit Sparxie's conversion, making him a worse option than Huohuo. You have units like Fushuen that have crit buffs, which are not great. The only unit that is currently better than Huohuo for the squad is Hyacine with her second Eidolon, which provides a substantial 30% speed buff to the team. The anti-synergy I mentioned before really starts to shine when looking for a proper sustainer that isn't E2 Hyacine or E1 Huohuo, and it begs the question of what our future Elation sustain will need to do in order to benefit all parties associated with this comp. Our first disconnect comes between Sparxie and Cerydra, and part of the reason why Huohuo isn't fully beneficial, because they have different scalings. This leads many to believe that Sparxie will not in fact be part of this team's final iteration, But it's worth mentioning that in beta, Silverwolf did originally scale with attack, and that was only changed because she was complete dog shit. I think that the plan is still to keep Sparxie around, but Pearl and Nihilux will need to play a very specific role to make this a reality. This is especially true because there is no doubt that Guang is currently a much larger necessity for Silverwolf than Sparxie, especially at free-to-play levels of investment. But what is the Elation team currently lacking more than anything? When compared to the flagship Remembrance team of last year, they're certainly not short on damage. However, what makes the Remembrance squad so powerful is not its damage, but rather its utility and functionality. Hyacine and Evanescia make Nude Bud generation a complete breeze, while all three members provide significant buffs to Castress. Cyrene gives everyone free ultimates, and at higher levels of investment, a 100% action advance for all of you E6 enjoyers. This creates the ability to frequently use Castress ults without much downtime, outputting significant amounts of damage through overwhelming quantity, rather than sheer numbers, though they do a lot of damage as well. Elation, on the other hand, is still very much lacking in the utility department. The only team-wide speed buff in the current 3-woman squad comes from Guang's E2. There is no source of action advance outside of the extra turns in Sparxie and Silverwolf's E2s, and Guang making Aha take a freebie with her ult. There's no way to stop certified bangers from expiring, no merrymaking outside of the E6 of Guang and Silverwolf, and of course, no dedicated sustain at present. But as I discussed before, an action advance could serve to harm this team's performance, as if Silverwolf blows through her ultimate turns too quickly, she may not be able to get it back immediately and will lose certified banger stacks because of it. Now, we've discussed our problems, we've made comparisons, and the rest of the video now will be my predictions and speculations on what I think Pearl and Nihilux may do for the Elation archetype. This is all just my own thoughts and ideas based on the current issues that the team has, and none of this should be taken matter-of-factly, as it's all essentially coming out of my ass. For Pearl specifically, in order to compete with the current best-in-slot sustainer of E1 Huohuo or E2 Hyacine, I have a strong feeling she will provide speed buffs in her base kit. Not only will this directly benefit our resident speed scaler, but this will also help contribute towards Aha's speed, allowing for easier speed tuning and higher thresholds to be met, resulting in more Aha instances. Seeing as how she's a member of the IPC, I predict that she will be a shielder rather than a healer, and I'm thinking that there's a very powerful passive that could be attached to her shield in order to remove some of the anti-synergies that this team and whole archetype has. It could read as this: when an ally is shielded by Pearl, their certified banger stacks will not expire. Not only does this solve the issues that this team could run into from any future action advancing shenanigans, but it also isn't too overpowered considering how hard certified banger stacks drop off in damage the higher you get. Hoyoverse is very fond of solving problems that they themselves created with either other units or Eidolons, and I think this would be a great way for them to fix the issues of certified bangers expiring. As for the rest of Pearl's kit, I imagine she'll probably deal a decent amount of damage to be competitive with the likes of Danhong and Hyacine, and I think she'll obviously provide some moderate team buffs, with more coming from her Eidolons. But with Pearl out of the way, what about Nihilux, who is shaping up to be our potential Cyrene equivalent of this team? We will first consider who she is meant to replace. Will Guang get the boot? Or will it be Sparxie? Despite Guang's current value in the team over Sparxie, I do think that her generalist style does harm her future potential, while Sparxie seems more catered to Silverwolf herself. It'll be interesting to see what the future holds, but for now I'm going to base my predictions off of the assumptions that Nihilux will be replacing Guang, simply because they both serve as buffers, and I think that the likelihood of the sub DPS staying in the team and Guang getting moved to Evanescia's team is more likely, but could be completely wrong. We'll see what happens. For my first prediction, I'm going to steal something from everyone's favorite game mode, Currency Wars. Both Silverwolf and Sparxie have incredibly powerful Elation skills that do way too much damage. What does EMC do in Currency Wars? He makes his selected target use their Elation skill twice whenever it is cast. I have a strange feeling that Nihilux will buff a specific teammate, maybe with their skill, and do the same thing. Hoyoverse has a tendency to test game mechanics in other ways prior to character releases, and I think this could be a prime way to test a core mechanic of her kit. On top of this, to compete with the current utility of the very powerful mono Remembrance squad, it'd be interesting if Nihilux had character-specific buffs similar to Cyrene. This could solve the issue of Sparxie and Silverwolf having different scalings and give both the stats they need without having to sacrifice speed on Sparxie or having to run loose shock on any of your supports. I think there may be a small chance that Nihilux will have some form of merrymaking in her base kit, or at least in early Eidolons, as it's currently only accessible through very, very high levels of investment. And finally, I would like to see some form of action advance or AV manipulation mechanic to fully round out the team's ability to cycle through actions quickly, as well as make use of stacks not expiring thanks to the kit we made up for Pearl. While this is all speculation, I think that these specific mechanics could greatly benefit our current Elation squad. What the future holds will only be told with time, and I'm just a guy that doesn't want his Sparxie to get curbed. I hope that you all enjoyed. Thank you so much for watching and listening to me yap, and I will catch you in the next video. Take care.